2,200 hours in the airplane, and it is an incredibly flexible and durable machine. It would have to be if I'm at the controls of the airplane. But here we go. Let's listen to 4,700 horsepower times 4 in these Rolls-Royce jet engines, the C-130J, the Super Herc. C-130J with a very, very steep climb out, similar to what they might do in a combat situation where the enemy may be close to the airfield, so that they get the maximum height they can during the takeoff roll and depart away from the airport and get away from the ground fire as quickly as they possibly can. At the controls of the C-130J, the operations officer of the 143rd Airlift Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Walter. And sitting to his right is the 143rd's newest instructor pilot, that's Major Mike McCarran, rounding out the 3-person crew, and yes, that's all it takes to operate the C-130J. His instructor loadmaster, Master Sergeant Kevin Dodd. And I believe, Kyle Gernon, that we have a 4th person on board today.
Yes, the crew chief on board today, Staff Sergeant Robert Rossi. He'll be doing the flag, Rhode Island flag, after they land.
Okay, now after they land, in order for us to see that flag, if he's holding up inside the cargo area, let's watch. That's a beautiful flag. So how are we going to see that flag if he's standing there in the cargo bay holding it up?
He's actually going to pop the Rhode Island flag out of the forward escape hatch, and you see that that's right behind where the pilots sit.
Right at the top of the airplane.
Right on the top of the airplane, so everybody can see good old Rhode Island flag.
And here with me telling us about that is Master Sergeant Kyle Gernon. And Kyle, what is your crew position on the airplane?
I'm a J loadmaster as well.
Okay, now since there's only 3 crew members on there, we used to have a navigator on board, we used to have a flight engineer on board, and we don't have those anymore. But you can't take away the pilots, and you can't take away the loadmaster.
Absolutely, we do miss the navigators and flight engineers, but with the new technology, those crew positions are not required. As you can see right now, we're going to have a nice flyby, so look left, everybody.
Hey, that's a beautiful, look at that steep attitude that he has, that sharp bank as he comes by. Doing close to 300 miles an hour. Tell me a little bit about the technology that you as a loadmaster on board have with this aircraft that you didn't have in the E models or the H models.
It's wonderful being a loadmaster on this airplane. We have an enhanced cargo handling system with electronic locks, which make things a lot easier. We can also do the weight and balance of the aircraft. We are responsible as loadmasters to do the weight and balance, make sure the cargo's in the right place, or else, Larry, as you know, the plane won't fly right.
It doesn't. It falls on its tail, or it won't get airborne in the required space that it's supposed to do that. They're going to be coming back right now for what would be a combat ingress to an airfield, coming in low and fast at about nearly 300 miles an hour. They'll come by. They're in the airfield vicinity right now. They're in protected airspace. And what they're going to do is turn the aircraft around, get it aligned, and set themselves up for a landing, which is what they would normally do, but not this time. What they're going to be doing is turning the airplane around and opening up the cargo door. Now, that's probably speed limited. It used to be 250 on the airplanes I was flying.
Actually, yes, it's 250 on this airplane, and the older E model is actually 150 knots with the cargo ramp and door open.
Now, with all this all the calculations in order for flight to be done electronically, you have computers to help you do that. But what about calculating the release point for the cargo itself? Maybe later on, during the combined arms, we'll get to see a bundle that's dropped precisely on target. Can you tell me a little bit about that process?
Yes, the avionics in the airplane they've been increased tremendously, and the CARPS, as you can say, the computed air release point that you'll see later on today, it's a lot finer on this airplane. We have 2 mission computers that back everything up with the avionics, and the pilots just enter in the coordinates, and usually it's a PI, point of impact.
And there's another high-speed entry through the confined space of the airfield, the protected area. They're going to turn the airplane around this time, and when they come back from right to left, we'll be able to see that cargo door extended, I believe. We will find out in just a moment. And what he's talking about now, in order to release the cargo at the appropriate point so that it hits on target, we've probably seen, you've probably all seen movies or video of a parachute coming out the back of the C-130 when the ramp is down, and now it catches the air and it's hooked onto the bundle and actually pulls it out the back. Is that what happens?
Absolutely, that's a heavy equipment drop you're talking about, Larry. And what happens is the parachute literally falls out of an old bomb rack back near the cargo door, falls out in the slipstream, it pulls the cargo and extracts it right out of the airplane.
Now here they come by, landing gear extended, some wing flaps extended. We don't have the ramp this time, we'll have it on the next pass, I hope. But tell me a little bit about those wing flaps. You may have seen that. Those are the panels extending down the trailing edge of the wing. And what they do is allow the airplane to create sufficient lift to keep it in the air while traveling at a slow speed through the air. Because as we mentioned a moment ago, it's the wind over the top of the wing that makes the lift, actually pulls the wing upwards, not the wind beneath the wings. That makes good sound, good music, but not good physics. But by changing the shape of the wing, by putting those wing flaps down, it changes that big curve of the upper surface of the wing, makes more lift at slower speed. Also, it creates a lot of drag. So you don't want to do that for high speed. That's why you retract that flap up into the wing. Now, they're going to be coming by this time, and I believe we'll have the ramp extended this time. So we are not going to be having the ramp extended this time. Okay, get your cameras ready because you'll get another chance. They're going to be coming by at a slow speed, and perhaps we will have that ramp or not. I'm not sure. They're slow enough to do that, as we said, getting it down below 250 knots, or about 277.3. I just did that calculation.
Wait a minute.
Just did that calculation.
You were such a liar.
Actually, you can do 1.15 times 250, and you'll wind up with 277.4 miles per hour. But that's neither here nor there. Okay, the gear is extended there. You get a real good view of those wing flaps down the trailing edge of the wing.
This J model has, as the latest version of the C-130 Hercules, has gone through some incredible modifications, including a big change in the propellers.
It really is, and the old C-130s, the ones that I flew, big squarish kind of paddle propeller, 4 blades of it. This is a very, very high-tech blade, or propeller blade that is on there. There's 6 of them, and they have a curved scimitar shape to them. And there's an awful lot of technology involved in these things. What it does is creates more thrust effectively to allow this C-130 to climb up to 40,000 feet and cruise up there where other C-130s can't go. They just cannot get up that high. I remember one time years ago having a very lightweight empty C-130. We were up here at Keys Air Force Base, as a matter of fact, flying it back to Pennsylvania. We were lightweight. We said, heck, let's take it up to 35,000 feet and just cruise along at 35,000 feet in an old E-model 130. Well, we did. We coaxed that thing up to 35,000 feet. We're hanging there. And you know why I'm never going to do that again?
Why is that?
That's because we were called out by air traffic control as slow speed traffic. At 35,000.
This is not
coming
slow
by
speed.
at a high. This is not a slow speed pass. This is a high speed pass.
It's a big airplane. The wingspan's 132 feet. How long is it?
How long is the airplane? It's about 154 or something, 109 feet. So it's wider than it is long. I think I knew somebody like that one time, just wider than Yeah, much wider than she was long. But I called her mother-in-law anyway, so
That's right.
showed the proper respect.
Yes, indeed. You think of though, that go back, I want you to go back with me, ladies and gentlemen, to 1903 when the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina made their first powered flight, that record-setting first powered flight. The flight lasted 12 seconds. The flight was 120 feet long. The wingspan of the Herc is longer than the Wright brothers' first airplane flight.
Okay, put your cameras on him now. I think he's going to roll it into a shallow left turn. And maybe not. How about a 45-degree departure over the field? There comes the left turn. You know, sooner or later he had to enter a left turn to align himself with what we call a runway. You know, a lot of folks ask us about these runways. It looks like he's turning around to land downwind on the runway 16. Normally you land into the wind, and if he was going to demonstrate a short field landing to us, he would be landing into the wind. That you pilots in the crowd know how rare that is. There's always a crosswind going across the runway, which makes the landing a little more difficult. I asked a guy at Pan Am one time, I had 32,000 hours of flying. I said, is there anything you want to do in aviation before you retire? You know what he said?
No.
He said, there is one thing I want to do. And I said, what's that? He said, I want to land into the wind. Just once in my career, I want to land into the wind. So I think we're going to have a downwind landing here. That means that this breeze along the surface here, about 10 knots or so, is going to be making him 10 knots faster as he comes down toward final approach. He's going to be doing about 110, coming down final, and now that means he's 120 over the ground. So he's going to use a little more runway than he normally would. However, the C-130 doesn't use a whole lot of runway anyway. You'll hear a difference in the sound of the engines as he uses reverse thrust. The propellers, instead of projecting the thrust backwards like they are right now, it's going to be projected forward to help stop it in probably 2,000 feet. Let's watch. Backing up the airplane with the reverse thrust. In order to stop that airplane, he did not touch the brakes, because if he did, the airplane might tip on its tail. There's so much thrust off of those propellers, all he did was move it back to forward thrust, and it drove the airplane forward and stopped that backward movement. There you see the wing flaps down the trailing edge of the wing.